Calling the Public Works Committee meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Cindy,
Here.
Seth,
Here.
Todd,
Here.
Andrew,
Here.
and Crystal.
Here.
First period for public comment. No one is here. Is anyone online? No one is online. Approval of committee minutes from March 4th, 2025.
And this is Crystal. I would move approval.
Todd will second it.
Motion by Crystal, second by Todd. Is there any additions or corrections by anybody? Comments? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. USDA pledge supporting the environmental loan program. Is this a Sarah? Okay.
Oh, I think I just have to wait. Yeah. It's in red. Do you want to borrow this one?
Sorry, guys, Sarah's having technical difficulties. Hang with us.
Thanks.
Oh my God, what are you doing?
Oh, here we go.
Oh.
There we go.
Here we go. Hey, oh, mine.
Okay, sorry, we're now ready. Okay, so this came from Wisconsin Rural Water Association. So it's all of, well, Wisconsin, most of the smaller communities in particular. But they're like our organization, our associations of obviously rural water. And they're a part of like a larger national network. And they do both advocacy work, but they also do like a lot of our education. Like most of the continuing education credits are coming from them. But they always send out a news bulletin. And in their latest one, they had, please sign this pledge, essentially. And so you can see it's promoted by the National Rural Water Association. And essentially, it is trying to show support for the USDA Rural Development, Water, and Environment programs, which we are a frequent user of. The USDA funding is usually not the first go-to, but it's always the one that you know is always there. And if you're needing loan funding, for example, at minimum, you know that you can always go to USDA and basically get a loan. So before I did anything with it, I wanted to come to committee and get an okay for it. But I think that, again, you know, it's not coming, it's coming from the National Rural Water Associations. And it seems like something that we should stand behind. So happy to answer questions, but that's what this is all about.
If we sign the pledge, are we going to write to our congressional representatives too?
Well, besides seeing like it asked all these questions and submit, and I obviously never went through actually submitting it, but it does ask like whether we have applied or received a USDA loan or grant. So I don't know exactly. It says today signing the pledge and writing. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Writing your congressional representatives. We could certainly do that step as well.
Yeah.
Do we have a success story to submit?
Oh boy, just about every project that we've done in the last 15 years is probably a success story. We had USDA funding for our wastewater treatment plant upgrade. We had USDA funding, I believe, on, let me think about this. Well, 6 may have been a combo, Safe Drinking Water, USDA. USDA was involved in our South Washington and Rust projects. Oh gosh, I think every single one of them has been touched really by the USDA. So it's been one of those like really solid spots in funding for water and wastewater projects that we've had. So yes, I could certainly write a number of success stories, and
Just a list would be fine.
yeah, I believe one of the plaques that we had up at the city hall in our old lobby area was an award we got for our wastewater treatment plant project for the environmental award for their program. So yeah, it would be a significant challenge for the city to not be able to go to this funding anymore.
Well, and to play devil's advocate, if we're going to them frequently for money, it would behoove us to sign this, I
Yeah.
suppose. So do we need a motion?
I think it would be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, just not just me doing it.
Okay, I would move that the city sign the pledge form for the rural water rural water strong program.
Todd will second it.
Okay, motion by Crystal, second by Todd to send the USDA pledge. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, motion carries.
Was one thing I wanted to add to that I forgot to, but it doesn't really change anything. But this is one of the few programs that has emergency funding. So like if we ever got ourselves in a pinch, there's like a whole stream of funding that's for specifically emergencies. Okay. All right.
Review and approval for delayed sewer connection at 702, 809, and 906 Railroad Avenue, and 1105 and 1107 West Broadway, and outbuilding on West Broadway.
A whole slew of them came in.
Yeah.
So this is all very similar to what we saw from Marion Clark. Again, these are folks that are on our project and will be impacted by the project and are looking for that 5-year delay. I can certainly read through all of them. They're all generally the same. They're just for funding, getting ready for it, basically. I guess the few odd ones. So the one that has the amendment actually was one application and it was on one property. And it's the Lee property on West Broadway. They currently have 3 buildings, 2 are served by water, and we're going to be putting sewer service to 3. They're looking at subdividing the property so that they can be able to do some of the things they want to do with those 3 buildings. And so there was basically, he's like, well, one of them we're going to do sooner and this one we're going to do later. And I said, like, just put all of them on one. We'll just do the 5-year and then it gives you a little bit of time and we don't have to kind of go back and forth. The other one that was a little bit different that we may want to do some different thing for is 809 Railroad Avenue. So he had said that he wanted this delayed request till December 31st, 2026. His name is Logan Norden. And he's a unique situation because he was actually on phase 1 of Railroad Avenues, which would expire 2025, December 21st, 2025. So he's looking for an additional year extension. But what ended up happening was it was a new property purchase and it was never disclosed to him that he was needing to be reconnected. So then, and the original property owner did not ask for the extension. We had having a hard time trying to even just get a hold of them. And so he's willing to move forward, but he's just like, can I have a little bit more time than the 90 days? Because technically, like, he never applied, right? And so I think it's very reasonable, even though theoretically this is his first application. When it was notified to the property, he was not the property owner. And again, it was not disclosed in their transaction for sale of the land. So I think that makes sense to not have 5 years for his, but to have the year because, he's kind of in a different situation and he should be moving forward sooner than the rest. So that's 809. And that was again, December 31st, 2026. The remaining of these would be for the full 5 years, which is the date starts from the time where we put the water or the sewer service to their property.
Sarah, I just have a question and maybe Cindy, you can remember, but it seems like one of those on 1107 West Broadway, that's the Lee property. One of those buildings was going to be torn down. So I don't know if any of that was it 1105? So I didn't know if that had anything to do with any of this as well, that they wouldn't really
They're
have
going to rebuild there.
they're gonna
at least
rebuild,
their
okay.
plan is. So the building's going down, but there's new property going up.
Does everybody remember what we're talking about when we say the delayed sewer connections? Do we
Sure,
need
it's,
a
yeah, it's a
quick review?
provision of the ordinance. So typically, previously, our ordinance only allowed for 90 days connection. So as soon as there was sewer in front of your property, you were required to connect within 90 days. And then when we started this West Broadway, well, it was Railroad Avenue project, we had consideration for folks that like to give them a little bit more time to connect. So we made this provision that with an application requesting a delayed connection, that we could give them 5 years.
Thank you. So if anyone want to make a motion to approve or not? Please.
Do you need the list of all the numbers in your? You
I
got
can just add them in.
Okay, all right. Then I would move that we approve the listed addresses for delayed sewer connection. And I won't list them all because she's already got them.
Motion by Crystal, and I have a feeling I know who's going to make the
Todd will
second.
second it.
Second by Todd to approve the delayed sewer connections at those addresses. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Discussion with possible action on TRC proposal for consulting service on closed landfill monitoring.
Okay, so I was hoping to have a proposal from TRC, but I do not. So for this part, we're just going to have the discussion, and hopefully we'll have the proposal before council next week. So there's been a series of events that had us starting to look at getting some help with the closed landfill. So the closed landfill is between Chicago Avenue, right, and Sands Road. That's where we've been putting our sewer around. Does anybody need me to show that on a map, or you feel like you know what we're talking about? Okay.
We all
And-
nodded, we did not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everybody
we-
looked okay.
Yes, we did not.
Yeah, so basically behind like O'Reilly's and like Gassers, that kind of area there. And then like north of Creamery Creek. So that is a closed landfill. The city ended up taking advantage of a program in the early 90s that closed the landfill because there were what's called Title D. There was a bunch of new landfill regulations that were coming into play, and they were encouraging communities to close like town dumps, they called them, because there was things were going to get a lot more sophisticated, like the Vernon County landfill. So since I've started, it's been just there. Nobody has, I've never had much communication with the DNR about it, except for when I've invited them out to come talk to me about, like, can we make it into a dog park or a soccer field? Because there's just so much land there. And it's been pretty quiet, but what ended up happening was a series of things that happened with the church that's nearby, where there was MG&E was on site doing some leak detection, and they ended up realizing that there was some methane levels that they were getting in the building one day. So then they started doing, you're just trying to figure out what's going on, and they suggested that we look at what was happening at the landfill. And so that kind of created conversations with me and the DNR, because I was asking them questions about the landfill and, what might be going on if there was any impact from our landfill. And so then we started realizing that the DNR was saying, well, what about your monitoring wells? And I'm like, what monitoring wells? And so long story short, when we closed the landfill, we ended up creating like a passive methane system. So if you ever go out to the landfill, you can see these, like, they call them candy canes, like white tubes that stick out of the landfill. And there's two sides to the landfill. There's one that's on the east side of Chicago Avenue, one that's on the west side. So apparently most landfills that are designed like that, or even ones that aren't designed like that, have monitoring wells that go along the perimeter, like usually like one or two per side. And so when I started talking to them about it, they're like, well, what are your monitoring wells look like? And I'm like, we don't have them. And everybody was like, are you sure? And like, no, I don't think so. And so since then, the DNR has been trying to go through their files, and they've done something like we have where they've scanned a bunch of files, but the company that did it like was not involved in the work. And so they just have a bunch of files. He said he's got like what did he say? 300 emails that he's going through about like, how we decided not to have them, these things, but he said they're like all in different order. And so he's been working through it. And so we're still trying to figure out exactly like what decision led them to not put them in, but to put the passive vents in. So in all of this, it made me think like we really need to get a good handle on this. We need to be a good neighbor with our landfill. I've also heard that there's old sawmill where the church was. So then there's question about whether is it actually from us or is it from the breaking down of the sawdust. And so there's lots of questions. And so in order to answer questions, we need people that understand how to come to the answer. So they are putting together a proposal to put some monitoring wells in, figure out what's happening at the landfill. So when we were doing testing, when they first came out, they were just probing and there wasn't a lot of gas that they were seeing coming off of the vents. So we just want to know why. Is it just because it's an old landfill? Nothing's really going on, or the vent's not working as well as they're supposed to? And so we basically need to get as much information about what's going on. So that's what we're looking for them to put together. They thought they could get it done for today, but it should be done for next Tuesday. But again, obviously with everything that's going on, we want to make sure we're doing our part, and making sure everything's going how it's supposed to at the old landfills.
So if we have to do these wells, I assume they're not cheap.
Right. They could be more expensive. I've got to they gave me like a general idea, but yeah, nothing is ever super cheap. The good thing is the exploration work will set us up well for doing other future work. So like we can convert them into permanent monitoring wells, so we could just always monitor there. Or we could do things to try to figure out like if we think that the venting system, the way that it's set up is there's like trenches underneath there's a clay cap, and the trenches go and move the gas to those candy cane things that are sticking out of the landfill. We just want to make sure those are operating properly. And so they can use the wells to also like create a vacuum pressure to see if we can pull things out of certain areas. So, and this would be applying to like the current side, but we also want to look at the west side too, because at some point there's going to be people wanting to get even closer than they are now. So unfortunately, I don't have a proposal to talk to you about, but that's what that is all about. And we'll be talking about it soon because I want to get moving on it.
It's interesting. Do you remember a sawmill? It's for Living Faith Church, I think. It must be a long time ago. Yeah, that's curious.
I don't know exactly, but I was told from somebody else that a former employee said that one was there. So we just need to know what's going on.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Okay, and since we don't have the agreement yet or the proposal in, do we just make a motion to move this forward to council?
Well, I assumed I needed another meeting before council in order to,
Okay.
I don't know. I'm looking at, this was kind of quick. I thought up until the last minute they were
I
going to be able to
don't
get it
know
to
if there'll be
us.
time because I know Park and Rec has to go because of the fact that April 1st is the election day. So if you guys are okay with just sending it right to council, then you wouldn't have to have a separate meeting
Great.
because you've discussed it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we
Whatever
wanna have a motion to
streamlines.
do that?
Yeah, this is Crystal and I. Did you have something?
Well, I was just gonna say, I don't know we don't have a proposal on hand to
Right.
forward to
Oh, I see what you're
recommend, so
saying.
I guess my question would be, what,
We would ask council to review the proposal and make a decision.
yeah, it's just, we're kind of in a weird spot right now where we've discussed the situation, but haven't discussed what we're gonna do about it yet because we don't have, I mean, I guess we discussed kind of what we would like to do and what we're forecasting, but until we have an active proposal to look at, I don't know what they're recommending, Lori.
Yeah, I don't think you'd really necessarily have to recommend anything, but I would say that rather than having to have a separate meeting, I think you can discuss it at council because you're going to have to send it, once you have it, you're going to send it to them anyway. So I would rather just do it all at one time.
So at this point, is there any need for action? Is there anything for action that we would like to see then, Lori? I'm just.
No, there's no action needed.
Okay, that's easy. Okay, lead service lateral grant update.
I get
Huh.
to be the
Sarah,
one
you
to
start.
talk. So since we got all of the payment ordinance, all that side taken care of, I started working on looking at like the agreements and how to set up everything. And we're seeing how things go, but we may have another road bump with regards to verifying whether or not we can verify that there were lead goosenecks attached to the galvanized. So to be continued, the ever-going saga, but we're hopeful that they could change things for us, but we may be in a situation where we'll be lacking information for the galvanized line. So yeah, they keep changing things, which is kind of where we have gotten into complications. But I will say that the one shining silver lining in everything is that we may, regardless of how things go forward, because the regulations have been changing, they may be able to find us a pot of money for those who have had their lead service or galvanized line replaced in sort of in the interim and the gap that we've had. So to be continued on that one, we may still get to sort of go under the old rules for those folks. Mhm.
That'd be good. Well, as usual, I applaud all the efforts you guys have made towards this. It's- yeah.
Hopefully it will come from benefit in the future.
Yeah. Okay, sewer project, anyone have any questions about the lead service? Okay. Sewer project 2024 update.
Well, as you know, they started working on West Broadway, and basically what has already happened on West Broadway is they put in 2/3 of the sewer main. Right now they're working on putting the laterals, so the like services that go to the property line. And so they have 3 that cross under Broadway, also Highway 56. And so obviously, cutting that open and closing that road is not really an option. And so they're working on boring, and it should work. It's a pretty good situation to bore with. And then they will do one of 2 things next. Continue the sewer main that they are working on Broadway, that last third finish, or they might jump over to Railroad Avenue and do the lateral connections there. So we had held them off, so not to dig. So on Railroad Avenue, they're going to be digging so that they weren't going to have the road open with gravel for the whole winter, like multiple locations as you drive. But we're at the point in time now where they can start making a move on it. So they'll be doing one of those 2 things next. And then the real fun will start, which is getting through Sands Road area and crossing Main Street and working along the fairgrounds, like the track area. So that will certainly be more obvious to people. I mean, I think we've been pretty good about not having a lot of impact up to now, except for maybe closing Chicago Avenue a few times, but that's when we're going to start being in people's space. So yeah, but it's moving and we're halfway through the funding. So that's always good because again, we're keeping a good eye on making sure we're getting our federal funding.
So would that affect I know it should be done way before the fair, but would that affect? the
Correct.
fair?
That's the idea, is that they have a blackout dates around the fair. We can't tear anything up
Okay.
during that time. We should be, I believe the finish date is June 30th for the whole project.
Not gonna
It's
budge
supposed to
it.
be. So
Okay.
yep. We
Anybody
want
have
to be
any,
good, fair neighbors.
anybody have any questions about that? Okay, street department update.
Okay, I forgot to get the updates from the guys, but I've got other updates. So for those who are interested in lighting, we ended up working with I think it's actually the Dark Sky Group. It's not the Valley, it's David Cryer, and I don't think
Valley
it's,
Stewardship.
is it through the Valley
Yeah.
Stewardship, the lights? Okay, so the lights are through Valley Stewardship, I guess. And they had got different temperature colored lights for what we have as our global light or our globe lights. And they were going to do some testing on like intensity and things like that. But it's also like a preference thing, right? Like just how people like to see their lighting. So I would suggest, I think Dave is going to do an actual survey. There was some confusion between who is doing the survey. And I said, the less I have to do, the better, please. But I want to make sure you all know. So if you wanted to see what's right in front of the bathhouse, actually, the two lights that we replaced are the ones right in front of the bathhouse. Walk by there if you have a chance and see what you think. There was some concern from the folks that in the street department that work on the lights that it's kind of the fixture ballast is more like the ones that we've had troubles with. So that was one of the concerns they had. But, you know, it's always interesting to look at things. Those globe lights are not my favorite. I mean, visually, decoratively, they're really cool, but they're incredibly challenging to work with. Like there's very little control we have over where the light goes. We had one light in particular that was by an apartment. And when we did the Rock Avenue project, it ended up being like more right next to the balcony area. And, you know, Mark worked on that thing. We had shields, we painted, we did all sorts of things, and we never really could get control of the light. So it's interesting. We also sometimes have people come to us to talk about temperature. So those lights are like the DOT standard temperature light, but there are warmer versions, and this is a warmer version. So that's one item.
Sarah.
Oh,
Sorry, just a quick question. So you replaced two lights outside of the bathhouse, two decorative street lights outside the bathhouse. Are they the same as each other, or are they
correct.
testing out?
They are the same. as
Okay,
each
so
other.
they just installed two for.
So Dave had worked with the supplier, like, and the group that is interested in looking at those changes. And so they did all the supplying. It's basically kind of like a tester or two testers. But yeah, so see what you think. I don't know. I kind of almost want, if we're going to move things, we might want to move away from those fixtures in general, or like the bulbs, but this is kind of an intermediary step. So hopefully once we're done, maybe Dave could come and tell us more specifics. Happy to report that we have 2 temporary workers for the summer season. We hired Carson Tracy as the Public Works intern, so he'll be working with me. He is a junior, but he skipped a grade, so he's younger. So he's just kind of, you know, ready to do work. So I've got a whole bunch of things I can't wait to stick him on. And then Cassidy Ramsey accepted a position for the street crew. And so he's going to be helping out the street crew. And last but not least, the Main Street project. So I have a meeting tomorrow with the contractor and the engineer, and that's why I haven't posted anything yet. Because I want to make sure that what I'm explaining to folks is accurate. It's always important. But they had that March 31st deadline. So we're going to see them. They're going to wait till that very end, because once they started, their clock would start ticking. And so like with weather going back and forth, they certainly didn't want to start and then have that. Now, the first go round of their schedule extends beyond the April 11th deadline, which means we could have them incur liquidated damages for the additional costs for our construction inspector. But I think they probably are going to have to. I mean, I think that's just the trajectory they were on, was that they weren't going to be able to finish in time. But obviously we still want them in and out as fast as we can get them in and out. And it was, I believe, at the very beginning of May was their proposed completion. I can't wait.
So this, this would be the new stoplight at South.
Correct. So that would include finishing the bump outs on the east sides of the road, making them one-way streets, making them like painting them properly. So none of them ever got painted, right? So they'll all look like Court Street, where there's angled parking and one way. So it'll just be a lot more obvious that they're one-way streets. And then obviously the traffic signal at South Street.
Okay.
So that's sort of the rounding out and the painting on Main Street. So right now, for example, there's left-hand turn lanes where there isn't left-hand turn, but there's also no left-hand turn lanes where there currently, well, their future will be. So like at Terhune and Court Street, when people are turning left, there's going to have their own designated left-hand turn lanes, so there won't be that backup for people waiting behind them or this driving around. I think that's all I have for updates.
Okay.
I had one question,
Sure.
and if this is off topic, tell me, but how are those bump outs working for plowing?
I'm sure that he's done a great job. Luckily, it hasn't been too terrible a winter. I mean, it's not easy. It certainly takes some more time, and you can see he put out those like yellow, so that he could see where he's done. But I haven't noticed, and we have a storm coming, any major damage to the bump house, which is good. He's
Good.
done a good job.
Okay, utility update.
Go
Want me to
ahead.
Go for it?
Yeah.
Break?
Please.
Well, our new former utility or billing clerk is starting on the 24th for sure. So I'm super excited. The office is excited. She's very excited to come back. I am slowly getting all of the audit stuff finished. I finished up all of their issues that they had while they were here today. And I'm starting on the PSC annual now. First thing tomorrow, after I do the billing clerk stuff, billing clerk stuff. I'm getting my two roles mixed up. And yeah, so then the rest of this week will probably be mostly billing clerk stuff because we have bills due, we have to get disconnection letters out, landlord letters out, and then starting Monday the 24th, I'll get Sarah rolling right in on billing stuff. So I feel like it will just be a little refresher for her. We've done a few updates to some procedures, some efficiency things when she's been gone. So just make sure she gets her procedures updated. Have her sit with the rest of the office, just to make sure that she's updated on some of the things that she already knows at the front counter. So otherwise, I do want to let you know, however, that our administrative assistant, Beth, has been no, this is a good thing. I realized as I was talking, I realized as I was talking, it came out really wrong. My brain just does not function very well anymore after the last several months. No, I do want to let you know that Beth has been a tremendous help to me. She has been very instrumental in making sure that all of our payments are getting verified and added. And while that does not seem like a big job, it really is. It's a very big time-consuming job. It's one that's necessary to make sure all the payments that are going in our system are really what the customer wanted to pay. And the way that we make sure everything is matching is we actually add up the checks and the payment stubs, and then we add them up again. And just so everything that's going in the system is absolutely correct. If it wasn't for Beth helping me and assisting me in that respect, I am not sure what situation we would be in. So Sarah has certainly stepped up and helped a lot, writing letters and contacting people and just taking stuff off my plate. The rest of the office has been super good about not interrupting me as much as they probably should, which I really appreciate. Really taking on some more helping with the customers at the front counter. So been much appreciated. I really don't know how I would have done it without everybody's help. So
Things are looking up.
things are looking up.
How long was
Yes.
Sarah gone?
Since July, middle of July. I really say June because she had a 2-week vacation in June. And then she came back, gave her notice, was here for 3 days with me, and then I came back early from a vacation to have 1 day with her, and then she was gone. So
9 months or something like that.
yeah.
Huh. Okay.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. Sarah, did you have anything?
Sure. So, let's see. Water tower, we have an inspection on May 7th that's coming up right after we do our water hydrant flushing. And then we'll have a drawdown, full inspection of the Eckhart Park one. And so getting ready for all this flushing and inspections, we're gonna do our well 6 and well 5 treatments over the next couple weeks. That's really the big highlights.
Is there
Trying
a
to
short
think
and
of-
sweet explanation of what treatments are to wells?
Sure. So essentially, we try to make sure we keep the biological microorganisms in the well itself in check. And so we basically treat them with like a chlorine and flush it out to make sure that the organisms are staying into the type that we want to see down there. Because it can cause, when there's more microorganisms, they start using the well casing, so like the metal pipe we stick down the well, as a source of minerals, and they can also start mining the like actual aquifer structure. So we start seeing a change in chemistry when they start doing that, and plus it's also corrosion on our components and things like that. So yeah.
Sounds very Star Trek-y.
It's just nature. We're just trying to keep nature in check though, because when you stick a giant straw down a hole, you're changing the environment, right? You're changing where the water's moving, you're changing what exists in that space. And so we're just trying to keep it where it was before we stuck the giant metal straw down the ground. Trying to simplify it, but that's the gist of it.
Appreciate that.
I will say I had a heart attack because Greg called me and said, well, 5's down. And I'm like, not again. It's the electrical, but they ended up losing a phase in the power. So everything came back. Excel went out there. Everything's fine now. But it was
Okay.
one of those moments where it's like, please no. We've
Right.
already dealt with that twice already. We don't need any more big bills or problems. So thankfully, it was not our issue.
Oh, good. Anybody have any questions for Sarah or Cheryl? Yeah, thank you very much. You guys do great work. Todd, you don't have anything to say?
Nope.
You have a second to anything? Okay, second period for public comment. Did anybody come on? No? Okay, adjournment.
Todd will make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Todd. Do we have a second by any of these guys out in,
Say AJ, I'll second.
I think AJ beat you. Okay, AJ second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.